The Mount Rushmore of NXT male wrestlers from the black and gold era. NXT and myself are in the hot seat, and we're going to pick who we think are the 4 best NXT male wrestlers from the black and gold era. Talk about Mission Impossible. Who goes up on that Mount Rushmore? This is a part of a series we are doing. New to the channel, we have done our top 4 Hell in a Cell matches that will belong on Mount Rushmore. You can check that video out already on the channel. But right now, it's NXT black and gold era. And NXT, welcome to the hot seat. This one, I think, is a bit of a toughie, but I'm looking forward to hearing your first name.
Dude, this honestly sucked. Like, I just had to chop and change so many, man. But I'll kick it off straight away. Number 1 is the most obvious one of them all. It is Finn Balor. He is obviously the guy that, like, kind of was almost the turning point for the black and gold era, I feel like, when he was world champion. And then obviously when he was called up to main roster, he was such a big deal. He was like second in the draft pick. And then obviously then he returns to NXT a couple of years later as another run as NXT champion. It is Finn Balor as number 1 for me.
Yeah, number 1 for me as well. The first name that came to mind was this is Finn Balor. You know, like you say, you go back to the time of where it all began for NXT. And although, like, I think of Sami Zayn in that period, but I also think Finn Balor, like you say, when he became NXT champion, Balor, Beast from the East, I believe it was, against Kevin Owens was the show. Yeah, and he was like main eventing every show, and he was like dominating every time. He had obviously the demon gimmick as well going on. It was so over. Remember, like, with the chainsaw, he was coming out as well, whether it was WrestleMania weekend in Dallas against Samoa Joe. And you go on to mention as well his second run in NXT when he comes back down. Obviously, they go to the USA Network. It's become a 2-hour show. The turn on Johnny Gargano at that time, we start seeing this, you know, really sort of sinister side of Finn Balor, which of course has pretty much carried on as a gimmick through to today, really, at this point, because obviously he's a heel now, part of the Judgment Day as well. And yeah, I think that Finn Balor, we've seen his best work in NXT in the black and gold, and clearly for me, I think that face belongs up there as being a multi-time NXT world champion.
Yeah, guarantee, man. He's just honestly, like I said, he was for me the turning point in the black and gold era, from when it became sort of a developmental show to a proper third brand for me.
Absolutely. I mean, when people look at the NXT takeovers, I think the turning point where people say takeover is the place to be is when you go to Brooklyn 1, obviously remembered for like Bayley and Sasha Banks, but Finn Balor main eventing that show against Kevin Owens, defending the NXT championship, of course, with the ladders involved as well, winning that match. He's the main event of that show that everybody remembers as the first major NXT takeover. So yeah, definitely deserves that mention. So we both agree on number 1. Who is your number 2?
Well, I'd be stupid not to include him, really. It's Johnny Wrestling. It's Johnny Gargano, the guy that is the first ever Grand Slam champion in NXT. Do you know what I mean? The guy that lived, breathed, and died NXT. And again, stupid not to include him, because he was like the heart and soul of NXT in the black and gold era.
Look, to be honest, I hope we're not a carbon copy the whole way through, but I've got to agree with you as well. Look, like you said, Grand Slam champion, and let's put it out there. The greatest rivalry in NXT history is Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. That has carried on for years. They've had superb matches, and Johnny Wrestling has been in great matches before that as well. Obviously, with the likes of Andrade, Takeover Philadelphia. You mentioned as well, like the fact he's been a Grand Slam champion. He obviously was a leader of the group The Way. He didn't leave NXT. He was like the guy that sort of wanted to stay there forever. It felt like he was Mr. NXT. It felt like the Shawn Michaels of NXT, dare I say it. You know, he was there from like 2015 until he left the company, I think, which was the end of 2021. When he did return in 22, then he went to Monday Night Raw. But I mean, you're talking 6 odd years in NXT. He'd done everything there was to do. He bled black and gold. So yeah, he has to be on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, agreed, man. Just a super athlete, and like I said, he just bled black and gold for NXT.
Absolutely, holding all the titles. I'm going to give a quick shout as well. DIY versus Revival, Takeover Toronto. What an epic 2-hour free falls match that was. So we're agreeing 2 for 2. What's the number 3?
Can't have one without the other. Tommaso Ciampa. I think he's the greatest heel that NXT has ever produced. His entrance alone, when he comes out to no music, and the boos that ring round for Tommaso Ciampa, and his run as NXT champion, I think he's the greatest heel that NXT has ever produced.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. And look, I don't want to have to keep agreeing with you, but I'm going to have to. Like, Tommaso Ciampa is up there. Goldie, it was all about Goldie. And I'm sorry, but when he turned on Johnny Gargano and cost him, at the end of the takeover when they lost the tag team title ladder match, then he came back, cost Johnny Gargano the NXT championship, and he came out to no music, and it felt like the most heel thing in the world. And the silence was just beautiful. You heard everything, the place with the pin drop, and I don't know, the anger, that everything that was going against Tommaso Ciampa at the time. The crowd really hated him. And I remember there was a time when it was on Twitter as well, and he spoiled Avengers just on Twitter just because he's a salty heel. It just, everything that ticked the boxes with Tommaso Ciampa, he was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And again, he is one of those 2015, I think, till 2022, and he stayed in NXT for, I think he is the longest servant in NXT. So for me, yeah, he has to be on Mount Rushmore. We've gone who we thought was the person that made everything, and yeah, the greatest rivalry. You have to have them up there.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's like I said, this is the hardest one, man. Like, I mean, before I give away my fourth, I hope we can do honorable mentions, but we could be here till next week with honorable mentions.
Easily. Well, I'll tell you what, I have a horrible feeling we've got the same fourth one as well, because to be honest, it's that damn good, isn't it? So yeah, who is it going to be?
Adam Cole, baby! Has to be, man. The greatest faction NXT ever produced. The only faction that like fulfilled a prophecy that like they were gonna hold all the gold. He had the hottest debut when he come in and attacked Drew McIntyre. Do you know what I mean? He had he has the biggest hype ever, and just honestly dominated NXT for the whole time he was in there. Came up, went to SmackDown, beat Daniel Bryan when he defended the NXT title when Black and Gold was surely at its peak and at its hottest. Do you know what I mean? And just honestly, one of the greatest NXT champions as well, man. Like, you can't have Mount Rushmore and not have Adam Cole, baby.
Undisputed Era shocked the system, literally. Adam Cole was the top guy of that group. He was NXT champion, and he was seemingly the guy that was going to be one of the next big things in WWE before he ended up trading, going off to AEW. But yeah, Adam Cole, when you think of NXT, you think of Undisputed Era, and obviously he led the kingdom of that group, and he went on to have some mega matches as well with the likes of Johnny Gargano. He had Aleister Black as well, another fantastic one, Keith Lee. There were so many great matches with Adam Cole involved. So yeah, it's unfortunate we've picked the same four, but hey everyone, it makes a shorter video, makes a nice little bit of content for you, doesn't it? It's bite-sized, dare I say, but I think that means we have to make some honorable mentions.
Dude, honestly, let me just run through my list quickly. So I originally had Robert Roode, because I was like, one of the best entrances NXT's ever produced, and obviously like it was a moment. I had Sami Zayn, because like you said, same as Finn Balor, Sami Zayn kind of is do you know what I mean, the heart and soul of NXT at a certain period. You could have had Shinsuke Nakamura. I had Cassius Ohno down, because I felt Cassius Ohno for the longest time was like a gatekeeper for NXT. You had to beat him to make it to main roster. Samoa Joe, and then obviously Kevin Owens. But my reason for not choosing Kevin Owens is he was only on NXT for 6 months before he went to the main roster. I don't think he was around long enough to be just as solidified as on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. He wasn't there long enough for me, but Sami Zayn was on my honorable mentions just because of the fact he felt like the original. You know, obviously him and Neville were like the original two that really sort of made you need to tune into NXT when these takeovers started. Shinsuke Nakamura, I mean, he was only there for a year, which is why he doesn't get there for me, but he was pretty much a top guy for the whole time he was there. I will never forget the match between him and Sami Zayn. Is arguably one of the best matches in NXT history at Takeover Dallas. Samoa Joe, like you mentioned, multiple time NXT champion as well. He would dominate. He would do great things in the couple of years that he was there. You know, there were so many good ones, and I think Keith Lee for me gets an honorable mention as well, because the guy, you know, bask in his glory. The guy was just unbelievable during his time, and was the first ever NXT and a North American champion at the same time.
Only as well.
Yeah, there you go. Fantastic. So yeah, is there any other honorable mentions would you like to mention, or shall we wrap things up here?
Dude, I think that was it. Like, so Robert Roode was the one I wanted to get in, just because, again, I think like he was a turning point for NXT as well with his entrance, and like he kind of like went viral for his entrance, and I think he helped draw a lot of eyes to NXT at the time when he was on there as well.
Certainly did indeed. I'll give one more mention for Drew McIntyre just because of the fact he had had to leave the company, obviously being part of 3MB, and obviously had to reinvent himself to come back. And the Drew McIntyre we see today pretty much started with his run in NXT, the sort of 12 months he had there, although he was actually only technically around for about 6 or 7 months because he got injured. And then when he returned, he went to the main rosters again. Another one that wasn't there long enough, like Kevin Owens, but certainly was a great one indeed. But now it's your turn in the comments bar. Have we picked the right four? Because NXT and myself, we've agreed. We actually think that the top four then are Finn Balor, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and Adam Cole, baby. Let us know if you agree in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share a friend, subscribe as well. And in the meantime, check out this other video right now, the Mount Rushmore of Hell in a Cell matches. Did we get the right four there? Let us know right now. Take care. Thank you for watching.